Welcome back to Rocky Mountain Residential, a podcast by MCM Collective. I'm Kelly McBartlett, and today we're joined by Heather Bustos, the Regional Vice President for Colorado Compass. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you. So great to be here. I'm always grateful when I get to spend time with you, Kelly.
Well, you're sweet to say that. So sit back at you, of course. So we have got our start in real estate at the same place, the group.
In Fort Collins. Who knew?
Who knew? And look at us now.
Thank you, group. Thank
That's
you.
right. So how long have you been in real estate now, if you add it all up?
This is my 33rd year. I have been in real estate, and it's changed a lot in 33 years. But you know what? There's a lot that's also still the same, which is the agents and the relationship in the business, the most important thing.
So what do you think, looking back across 30 years, what has been the most distinct change that you've seen in real estate?
Technology.
Yeah.
Pure and simple. I mean, I can go back 30 years ago, right, with the invention of the fax machine, to where you could actually fax contracts
Right.
versus writing on the 5-part NCR contract. So, I mean, you go all the way back, starting like we had fax machines, and then at some point we had a contract software called Real Fast.
Okay.
And that was like, oh my God, you don't have to handwrite contracts anymore. You can actually type it into like a fillable form. So I have watched for 33 years, right, really the impact of technology on real estate. And not that it's changed our business fundamentally, but it's evolved our business because technology is a tool to support what we do in the world of real estate.
Yeah. That's, I mean, it's fascinating, and we're still seeing technology change what we do day to day.
We are.
So it's interesting. So have you been in Colorado that entire time?
I am a Colorado native, born and raised in Greeley. So I have an affinity towards northern Colorado, having spent most of my life there. And then I have been in Denver for nearly 30 years now. I did a 2-year stint out of Denver.
Okay.
I moved to Washington, D.C. to be the senior vice president for the D.C. region of Long and Foster Real Estate.
Okay.
So I got to live in the heart of DC, and it was really quite an amazing experience. And then after that, I spent a year abroad working with a real estate developer doing some fun stuff over in Spain. Other than that, I've been in Denver for the whole time I have been in real estate. Those are the only 2 years I've been outside of Colorado in real estate.
Interesting. So that gives you an interesting perspective when it comes to the Colorado real estate market versus
Yes.
other places in the country.
Absolutely.
What do you think makes our market different than everywhere else?
I think our market is a stable market compared to many others. I mean, you've seen the tech boom and how technology shaped part of the Bay Area in California, and then obviously, really kind of ground zero for all things technology and innovation. And then I think when you go to the East Coast, it's just a very different market. It's always been a more expensive market, and they deal like New York City, for example, lots of co-ops, right? Like it's traditional real estate for them, but not traditional in the sense for us. What I've always appreciated about Colorado is that we have always been, for the most part, a primary home market, meaning our people, their homeowners are transacting for their own personal primary residence. I think the other thing that really stands out distinctively is we have our mountain markets, which is a very different type of market than the Front Range market. Our mountain markets, as you well know, it's really like secondary home markets, vacation home markets. And so the type of buyers and sellers we see in our mountain markets are very different than what we see in the Front Range. We are really down here transacting for our personal residences and then obviously some, investment rental properties. But for the most part, it's people buying the home that they're going to live in.
And the greater economic pressures affect those markets completely differently when you look at the mountain markets versus the Front Range.
Absolutely. And the market cycles are also very different. So when we are busy here in the Front Range market, the mountain markets are typically very quiet. And when we're quiet, they're very busy because they tend to follow more holiday patterns. More people are in the market during the holiday season for skiing, vacations, and summertime, you name it. So it's very interesting, like running the state of Colorado for Compass, that I get to see the variance in the markets and like how we plan and forecast for like what's going to be happening in each side of our market, because it literally is almost like counter-cyclical to what we typically see here.
Yeah, super interesting.
Yeah.
So talking about Compass a little bit
Yes.
more. So Compass has been around a little over 10 years now, and not everybody knows Compass yet. So Compass has distinguished itself versus traditional brokerage models. What do you think about that distinction between the traditional brokerage model and Compass?
That's a great question. Having been in the business for 33 years, I've had the opportunity to work for a lot of different brands and a lot of different models of real estate brokerages. To me, what differentiates Compass is that when we say the agents are the heart of what we do, we truly mean it. Which means when we develop technology, it's to empower the agents to do more business. When we create support models, it's what serves the agent best, right? It's not how do we make more money? How do we become more successful? It's really about how do we continue to reinvest back into our agents. But I think the differentiating point outside of that is our platform, as it has grown, especially over the last 6 years, how much it has evolved is really quite significant. Like today, you can't go out into the marketplace and find the same platform that we have all in one place. Like you may have anywhere from 6 to 12 different pieces of software that do what our platform does. So for me, the differentiation is that we always put the agent first, and then we develop technology to empower our agents to do more business, which ultimately just creates a better relationship between you and your client. Because ultimately, whatever we're doing, if it's not serving and supporting you, it's not going to serve and support your clients.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think I could have said it better. I tell my clients when they ask, or other agents, what I've noticed. And, in the past, I would put a client's contact information into 6 different platforms, for instance, to get one job done.
Yes.
And now it goes into one platform. So it's night and day different, and it allows us to spend more time with our clients, which we love.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to, you mentioned the technology at Compass, and there's other programs that we have,
Yes.
for instance, private exclusives.
Yes.
What do you feel like the tangible benefits are for clients when it comes to those platforms and technologies?
I think there's several things, but for me, what has really resonated, especially over the last 24 months in our industry, is it's all about consumer choice, right? Consumers get empowered, and consumers are protected by having choices in how they can market their home, and ultimately the freedom their agent has to do that for them. Everything that we do, whether you're talking about license law and the legalities of the business or how we actually support our clients, right? It's how do we put our clients' best interests first. And so for me, I think the stellar offerings that Compass offers to clients is number one. I think our Compass 3-phase marketing strategy is second to none, because ultimately what it's telling the consumer is you really have 3 to 4 choices on how you want to market your property. You can do a private exclusive, which gives the agent and you as the seller the time to really dial in on your marketing strategy, dial in on the pricing strategy, and solicit some proactive feedback from agents before it actually hits the market. While we talk about how technology has evolved the real estate business, there's some areas where I don't think technology has served consumers in the best way possible, right? Because that electronic footprint of the property is constant. No matter what you do, someone can find how long the property's been on the market, how many price changes, even when this seller purchased the property previously, what did they buy it for, right? There's a lot of information out there for consumers. But if you're not reviewing and distilling the information correctly, you might actually be making a decision based on data points that aren't valid. So for me, when we talk about private exclusive, it really gives you and the seller the opportunity to dial in that pricing and marketing strategy, get some feedback, and then ultimately you have that opportunity to put it on the market right the first time. Once you put that broad marketing plan together where it goes out to everyone, you can't rewind that. Once it's out there, it's out there. And so that Compass coming soon phase is so critical because it's really saying, hey, we've done all this work on the front end. We've done all of this marketing to date, and now we're ready to go public. Here's the unveiling of the property publicly, and here we go into the MLS. Once it hits the market publicly again, you can't change anything. But if you do change it, everyone gets to see the history. So when you say to a seller, hey, listen, we can go direct into the MLS, that's option number one. Option number two is you have these 3 other options, which is private exclusive, coming sooner, MLS. Do you want to do all 3 of those or only one of them? How do you want to do it? Traditionally, it's always sort of the seller is told what they have to do.
Right.
We have to enter the listing into MLS into a set period of time. We have to market it this way.
Yep.
This is their biggest investment of a lifetime that they're selling. And so they should absolutely be given the options. and you having the opportunity to give them options to do that. I think some of the other cool things that Compass does, again, through the platform that really helps a seller is we not only have the private exclusive, we have reverse prospecting, right? We have the buyer match.
Right.
And then there's sort of like that make me sell feature, which is, I think, really cool because a lot of times sellers, depending on the market they bought in, they may say, Kelly, I'd like to list my home, but I know my price is aspirational. I know it's a little above market. And to an agent, it's like, oh, aspirational pricing, like it can kill it
Right.
once it goes publicly into the market. And so we have the ability through the platform to say, you know what, great, I'm going to put that in. And as agents go into the platform and they're looking at different things through reverse prospecting, buyer match, the make me sell, like it really empowers the agent to be able to say, listen, like here's what we see in the platform. We can see that X number of buyers are looking at a property in that neighborhood in that price range. It just helps you deliver more meaningful data back to your clients to actually help them make a good decision.
Absolutely. I love all of those points. And
Yeah.
we talk to our clients about them frequently.
Right.
And the way that you described it is exactly what they see as a benefit. So when we're talking about private exclusive or three-phase marketing, having that control to roll things out at your own pace and at your own time and get things ready, and also be prepared for a sale if somebody comes around sooner. There's a lot of strength in that. And when you talk about things like private exclusive and make me sell pricing for a buyer,
Right.
having access to that information is fantastic. as well.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Just the whole buyer demand, right? Being able to see, like, help your seller understand, hey, just one change in a price point can change your buyer demand drastically, for better or for worse, right? But like, use the data to really inform your clients to make decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. So along with that, you kind of brought it up. Zillow's been in the news a lot, and all of these other platforms.
Yeah.
They've changed the industry. No matter which way we look at it, they've changed the industry.
Right.
How do you see Zillow and the other platforms and Compass and brokerages working together in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think number one, our industry is really predicated on collaboration across the board, right? We are reliant upon our peers in the marketplace to bring buyers or sellers to transactions that we're trying to do. And so I think that there's a difference. Let's be clear on like the difference between a brokerage and a portal, right? Portals such as Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com. Portals are really a digital marketing tool to have a property present. And, those portals spend a lot of money advertising their brands, trying to drive consumers to come in and use their portals to search for real estate listings. Some of them monetize that because, for example, Zillow, the whole point of getting listing inventory on their portal, thank you, is that they are going to take that buyer inquiry and then send it to an agent for a referral fee. So when we talk about who's actually selling real estate, portals don't sell real estate. Portals advertise listings for consumers to search. Brokerages through real estate agents sell real estate. I think the national statistic is all of the real estate portals out there, they actually transact or are responsible for less than 3% of total transactional volume in the United States.
And what we're talking about there is really the actual transaction
Correct.
transpiring. They're responsible for 3% or less.
The actual putting the buyer and the seller together to go under contract and then ultimately close on the property. So real estate brokerages, all of the brands that exist in the brokerage space are the ones that are actually selling, right? And so all of the portals, all of the MLSs are reliant upon real estate agents such as yourself and the brokerages that actually enter their listings into the MLS. And then they syndicate those listings out to the portals, and then it kind of goes on from there. So when you talk about the distinct difference on, how they're going to shape the industry moving forward and the impact, I think it's going to remain the same in a lot of ways, simply because consumers are going to pick the portal they're most comfortable with just because it's easy, right? They're just looking for information. But then they're still going to go to their real estate agent to say, I want to go look at real estate, help me identify the right properties, here's kind of what I'm interested in. So the way I have always viewed portals is that what they do is they have given public access to information for them to really research the markets, to research neighborhoods, to research pricing, help them be a more educated buyer and seller And then as they start to work with the agent, you help to really hone that in and then help give them more of the micro education into the areas that they're specifically looking to buy.
Right. Absolutely. I 100% agree. And, I think it's interesting when you look at those portals. I almost, when I talk to my buyers and or sellers, they're usually looking at that data very early in the process.
Right.
They may reference it later,
Yes.
but once they're actually to the point of buying, they're probably really working with their agent to get inventory directly.
100%.
And then maybe cross-referencing on a portal later
Exactly.
to get additional information. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, interesting.
I agree.
So we're currently sitting in November.
Yes.
There's a lot of headlines about interest rates and the market overall, and economic pressures.
Yes.
If you're a person buying or selling real estate right now, what should people be keeping in mind?
There's never a better time to buy real estate than right now. It's never going to be cheaper than it is right now, right? And the reason I say that is no matter, having been in this business for 33 years, I have seen wildly different markets. And what I would say is no matter what the market is, no matter what's putting pressure on the economy, interest rates, or housing, people are always going to buy and sell real estate. Right?
Right.
But the economy sort of dictates whether it's people are in it to buy their dream home, their aspirational home, their second home, vacation home. I think the market that we've been in for the past 24 months is a market where people are transacting their primary residence, pure and simple. Taking our vacation markets out of the picture because that is a different one. But when you look at the vast majority of real estate transacted in our metro markets, most of those real estate transactions are people who have to sell for one reason or another. A little bit of aspirational purchasing in there, but it's really transacting day in, day out. The reason I say there's no cheaper time to buy real estate is because when you look over the history of real estate prices, and let's talk about Denver for a minute. Let's go back to the years of, say, 2000 to 2007.
Right.
Historically, Denver has been a very slow appreciating market. So in those early years of the 2000s, we may have seen anywhere from maybe 3 to 5% year over year appreciation.
Right.
Very, very steady market, right? Versus East Coast, West Coast, you could see these wild amounts of appreciation in a given year.
Right.
So Denver, to me, has been a very different market all along because we have been a market that we had more steady appreciation in the early 2000s. And then obviously we were impacted like everyone else during the economic downturn of 2008 through 2010.
Right.
Very hard times in the business, but you know what? We were still buying and selling real estate. It was just a different type of buyer and seller in the market. And then when 2012 hit and we went into this literal almost 10% year over year over year over year appreciation and watching how expensive the Denver market got, we definitely started to see a trend, especially during COVID, of people moving into the metro market here because of a lifestyle that we had.
That's right.
It's become wildly unaffordable, right? Which is always the challenge. But at the same time, as we've seen the market correct over the last couple of years, market slowed because interest rates all of a sudden shot up. What we have seen is that our prices have still held strong. We have not been a market where we saw a massive 10% year over year depreciation in home prices.
Right.
Denver has always been really unique in the fact that we have held pretty strongly on prices over the years. And I think that that's more of a testament of, I think the type of buyers and sellers that exist in our market. I think there's more cross-market moves. I do think that some people have come in here, they've experienced a lifestyle, and now they're ready to get out and explore something different. We're still seeing some in-migration, but we're also seeing some out-migration to other marketplaces because some people are moving more into a retirement phase of their life. And maybe Colorado in the winter is not ideal. They're going to go to Florida, right? There's just a lot of different reasons. But to me, the Denver market has always been a very resilient market. And I hope that that remains to be in the future. But we do anticipate, we have the last couple of years, we've anticipated the market to be very flat, meaning there's not huge transactional growth or declines. But I do feel like the market is in a position right now, the longer we see interest rates above 6%, you just have to get used to it, right? I think what's more challenging in our markets, and in Colorado, we're not the only state that's impacted by this, but I think the bigger impact long-term in our real estate markets is homeowners insurance and the cost of rising premiums.
It's interesting.
That more than anything, I think is going to have an impact simply because in our mountain markets, even in the foothills of Boulder, right? people are having to self-insure their properties. They can't go and get a typical insurance policy, or they're getting one where they're paying a 10 to 20% upfront deductible in case there's damages. And so that, more than anything, I think is going to impact our real estate industry long term. And whether it's global warming, whatever you want to attribute it to, right? But like the insurance crisis, I think is going to have more of an impact than interest rates will. Interest rate is one piece of the transaction. We're talking about sales price, we're talking about interest rate, we're talking about down payment, and then we're talking about homeowners insurance and the impact of that on the total cost of the home.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And, it in fact, it brings up something else for me. In Colorado, we're starting to see a lot of focus in building on design and performance construction, sustainability. Where do you see that leading us?
That's a great question. I've tried to come up with a really good answer because ultimately I don't know where it's going to lead us. I think the true answer in that is going to be like how developers are going to really integrate some of those sustainable, cleaner building models into their plans, because it's not the cheapest way to do it,
right,
but long term, it's the better way to do it. So I think that it's definitely going to have an impact in the market, but I think we're also really reliant on whether it's through some of our, I never want to insert legislation into our industry because sometimes that's not good.
Right.
But sometimes it's saying, hey, if you're going in and developing a community, maybe X% of it needs to be this, and then the rest can be on the traditional grid, as you would call it. But I definitely would think in the future, sustainability is going to be more of a factor.
Yeah. When I think about, to your point, we've had code changes that have changed things around insurability.
Right.
For instance, in Monterey County, we've had a code change that has changed the requirement to have impact-resistant shingle. A lot of our markets are doing that now.
Yes.
That's directly related to insurability,
Right.
because that's a huge insurance driver for us. Exactly. But it makes construction more expensive. So how do you balance that with affordability is the big question.
That is the big question. And I think, unfortunately, in our market, like affordability is sort of a word of the past.
That's right.
I think it's really hard. Unfortunately, I think it's really hard to be a first-time home buyer in our market. Most first-time home buyers are typically going to be attracted towards attached inventory. So think condos, townhomes. Those are also the most expensive properties right now because of homeowners insurance, and ultimately HOAs and management companies, how they have to insure common areas and the price of those. It's really a very hard place to be. So I think when you look at like, how do you create affordable housing? How do you create affordable markets? The challenge is much greater than just saying we're going to designate X amount.
Yeah. I mean, it's a much bigger problem. You have supply, you have demand, all of the things that contribute to that. So,
Absolutely.
so looking to the next 10 years,
Yes.
Heather, when it comes to Compass
Yeah.
and real estate in general, what are you looking forward to?
Oh my gosh. I think in general, like I am so curious right now. I've already watched just even in the last 6 months how AI has really evolved, not only in our world, but like really in our business. So I think when I look over the next 10 years, what I anticipate is I think there's going to continue to be a pretty serious consolidation in the world of brokerage, meaning not as many brokerages operating. You'll have, more of the, I don't want to say like larger brokerages, that's not the right term, but I think that it's becoming more and more expensive to operate a smaller to medium-sized brokerage in our marketplaces simply because it's expensive. And so I think when we look to see like how is real estate going to evolve over the next 10 years, I do think there's going to be a consolidation of less brands out there. I do think there's going to be, in one way, like more technology available, but in a different way. So I think the challenge continues to be for a real estate agent. And I think one of the things that I love about Compass is, we have a national footprint. And while we try to make real estate hyper-local, it's about what's happening in Fort Collins, what's happening in Boulder, what's happening in Longmont, what's happening in Denver. Really what it's about is like how is technology empowering you to deliver more to your clients quicker and more efficiently. So for me, I'm very obviously positive on Compass and the future of Compass because I love our tech. And I think one of the things that really differentiates us today and will continue to differentiate us in the future, and kind of back to a point you made earlier in this podcast, is not everyone knows Compass. No, not everyone knows Compass. But I do think for the major metro markets where Compass does exist, The one thing that's really consistent for the consumer is, Kelly, you can have a client in Fort Collins and you can say, hey, I have someone who's moving to Seattle, Washington. I'm going to find the right person to send it to in Seattle. And because of even the Compass One app that we have, which is really the client facing side of our technology, right? It's Compass One that gives them full visibility into everything you're doing in the transaction for them. If they worked with a Compass agent in Fort Collins and they worked with a Compass agent in Seattle, they get that same experience, right? So once you learn the tech once, you've got it down. And so that's consistency for the consumer. And I think when that is matched with like a stellar customer service experience, that's where the brand becomes really powerful. And I think for Compass, as we continue to build and improve our technology to provide more value to you as agents, you're providing that value to your clients, no matter what market they're transacting in.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Heather. This has been an honor, and we just appreciate the time. So
Thank you. Happy to make the time for you, and it was fun to just have this kind of a business conversation with you.
agreed.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all. We'll see you next time.